The power of speaking up. Why silence can betray your integrity. Silence may be golden, but in the wrong moments, it can be the most dangerous weapon you have. In a world where injustice, misunderstanding, and conflict thrive on passivity, choosing silence is not just about avoiding confrontation. It's about choosing, and often choosing, to side with oppression, wrongdoing, or the status quo. Have you ever stayed silent because speaking up felt too risky? Perhaps it was at work, when a coworker was being treated unfairly, or at home, when outdated traditions clashed with your values. That silence not only protected your comfort, but also became complicity. Today, let's explore 5 situations where staying silent is not only a bad choice, but also a betrayal of your integrity. These moments require courage, insight, and action principles deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. 1. When injustice happens. Injustice is not just an abstract concept. It is a poison that slowly seeps into the fabric of community and relationships, eroding trust, dignity, and fairness. Keeping silent in the face of injustice is not neutrality, but an active choice to allow the poison to spread unchecked. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that justice is not just a virtue, but also a responsibility. Marcus Aurelius profoundly stated that, "What is bad for the hive is bad for the bees." This truth encompasses the fact that allowing harm to persist anywhere in a community ultimately harms everyone, including those who remain silent. Why do we choose to remain silent? Often, it is out of fear of confrontation, fear of revenge, fear of being alone. These fears are very human, but they can paralyze us and make us complicit in the very harm we hope to avoid. Ironically, while silence may seem like a way to keep the peace or avoid conflict, it almost always creates deeper chaos. Silence is a breeding ground for injustice, and like a festering wound, it gets worse when ignored. I learned this the hard way early in my career. A colleague of mine was wrongly blamed for a mistake they did not make. I knew the truth, and I had the opportunity to speak up, but I hesitated. Convinced that it was none of my business, and that intervening might jeopardize my position, I kept quiet. Watching my colleagues suffer unjustified criticism felt like a slow betrayal, not only to them, but to my own values. The guilt of inaction still haunts me. I realize that by prioritizing my own comfort, I have failed them and myself. Standing up against injustice builds moral character and strengthens community trust. Small acts speaking the truth in a meeting, standing up for someone when they are unjustly attacked, create ripples that foster trust and empower others to do the same. Stoicism teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear, it is acting in spite of fear. Injustice thrives when good people say nothing. The next time you witness injustice, ask yourself, is my comfort more important than the dignity of others? 2. When your boundaries are crossed. Boundaries are more than personal preferences. They are invisible lines that define respect, trust, and integrity in any relationship. When someone crosses those boundaries, staying silent sends a dangerous message that your boundaries are negotiable, that your comfort and dignity are secondary to their desires. The Stoics taught us to honor our values and not let outside forces dictate our sense of self. As Epictetus said, "No one is free unless he is master of himself." Protecting your boundaries is not an act of hostility. It is an act of self-respect. I once had a relative who repeatedly borrowed money from me and never paid it back, always with heartfelt promises to pay me back soon. At first, I rationalized their behavior, convincing myself that it was my duty to help my family. But as the requests became more frequent and the amounts grew larger, I began to feel resentment, not just because of the financial burden, but because I realized they were taking advantage of my kindness. I confronted the issue, explaining that while I cared deeply about them, I couldn't continue to lend them money without accountability. It wasn't easy, but it allowed me to maintain our relationship on healthier terms. Not enforcing boundaries can lead to exploitation and broken relationships. The subject Stoicism reminds us that we are responsible for how we allow others to treat us. Setting boundaries is about asserting our self-worth and ensuring interactions are built on fairness and respect. When you speak up, you send a powerful message. You value yourself and expect others to do the same. 3. When honesty is necessary to maintain integrity. Honesty is the backbone of integrity. Yet in moments of discomfort, it is often the first thing we sacrifice. Keeping silent when the truth is needed is not just about avoiding conflict, but also about actively compromising your principles. Stoic philosophy places a lot of importance on living in alignment with virtue, and honesty is the foundation of that alignment. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not right, do not say it." But what happens when silence becomes a lie? Hiding the truth allows deception or harm to continue. Silence becomes a betrayal of your integrity. I faced such a moment in my career when a superior presented a report with obvious errors. The errors were not intentional, but they painted a misleading picture that could have serious consequences. Everyone in the room noticed, but no one spoke up. I hesitated, but then I realized that if I didn't speak up, I would be aiding the deception. I respectfully pointed out the errors, and the team fixed them. The project moved forward with integrity intact. Honesty is not about exposing others for the sake of self-righteousness. It's about cultivating clarity and authenticity. When you choose honesty, you set a standard for yourself and others. Integrity thrives when honesty is maintained and dishonesty disappears. 4. When a mistake needs to be corrected. Mistakes left unaddressed can grow into larger problems, like cracks in a dam that may initially seem small, but can eventually lead to catastrophic failure. Correcting a mistake is not about blaming someone else, it's about protecting the integrity of the whole. Stoic philosophy teaches that courage and responsibility are necessary in situations where remaining silent may seem more convenient. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, what stands in the way becomes the way. In the context of mistakes, addressing them directly is not an obstacle, it's a path to progress. I once overlooked a small error in a group presentation. At first, it seemed insignificant, but I realized that if left unaddressed, it could lead to a series of bad decisions. I hesitated, thinking I had no authority to point it out, but I knew the greater good. I addressed the mistake, and although the room fell silent, the problem was fixed, and we avoided a costly mistake. Fixing a mistake is not about criticism, it's about accountability. It sets a precedent for honesty and vigilance in your community. 5. When your expertise can help others. Knowledge is not just a personal asset, it's also a responsibility. When you possess expertise that can ease someone's burden, solve a problem, or shed light on a difficult situation, it's disrespectful to remain silent. The Stoics believed in the concept of shared humanity. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is bad for the hive is bad for the bees." Your knowledge is a tool with a purpose for the common good, not a trophy to display on a shelf. I was hesitant to share my experience with a friend who was grieving a personal loss. My own loss taught me valuable lessons, and I knew that my insights could provide some comfort. After some hesitation, I reached out and simply said, "I know this pain is hard to bear alone. I've been there, and if it helps, I'd love to share what helped me." That simple gesture led to a much-needed conversation, and my insights became a source of comfort for them. Your experiences, especially painful ones, have the potential to guide others through similar struggles. Keeping silent when your knowledge could help someone isn't humility, it's holding back a lifeline. Stoicism teaches us to share what we've learned, not for validation, but because it reflects our commitment to making a positive impact. In short, silence may feel safe in the moment, but in situations where justice, integrity, boundaries, honesty, and expertise are at stake, it often leads to harm, complicity, or missed opportunities. Stoic philosophy reminds us that life as being virtuous requires courage and the will to act, even in the face of discomfort. By speaking up when necessary, we not only maintain our own integrity, but we also create a better, more just world for everyone around us.